Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett and thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today because in this video, we are talking about some of the most difficult living rooms to decorate and some of my top tips for you to keep in mind as you go on the journey of completing them. Now, the first space that is difficult that a lot of people ask me, how do I decorate with? I want you to remember that no two spaces are the same, so sometimes you need a little bit of extra help with that and it's okay. That space is going to be a narrow living room. I've got some clients who they have got living rooms that are so small they cannot fit a sofa, a coffee table, and chairs. Okay, there's just not enough space for that. And it's very common to see that. So don't think that it's impossible to decorate your space beautifully because it's narrow. There are always some great things we can do to really up the ante in those spaces. You have to have those spaces be convertible, and you're going to have to adjust the layout of them as you live in that space. Now, that could mean so many things, but what I mean by it is we look for pieces of furniture that are either easily movable or can be either stacked or moved or put together, moved aside to make it actually functional. In a lot of narrow living rooms, you have to walk through them. There's going to be a pathway right in the middle of the room that we have to accommodate. So what you can do often is look at what things are fixed in place. And usually that will be something like a sofa. Maybe it's your television is going to be mounted on the wall. Those two things are going to stay where they are and they are not going to move. One, because they're heavy, and two, because what are you, taking your TV off the wall? That doesn't make any sense. And then other things are going to be movable, and that will give us the flexibility to actually use the space and decorate it. So what does that mean? It may mean we take 2 chairs and we make a small seating arrangement off to the side. Maybe there's a small table. It could be a little, spot where you can have your coffee, and that's great. But when we're entertaining, we can take those 2 chairs and move them into the actual living area to create a functional conversational area. But when you don't need those chairs, they can serve another purpose somewhere else. And it's not like a dining chair and a living room chair. They're not the same. Okay, a living room chair has more depth, it has more bulk to it, it is more comfortable, it has a higher back on it than a dining chair will in most instances. So these are the things you need to be considering. And where can we put those other chairs? Can we make a small seating area with a table arrangement? Or is it gonna be, they're off to the side in another room and we bring them in? There's lots of convertibility in a narrow living room that you have to think about. And then look for what are the pieces that we can move in and out of the space. And it may mean we're curating smaller pieces. It may mean we have bigger dining chairs, right, that are living room chairs that we could then bring into the living room to have that arrangement. And then, hey, if we're entertaining and people are in the living room hanging out, then we can move the chairs into the dining room to eat on. Great. Or you can also look at coffee tables, and instead of doing one big coffee table or, stacking 2 of them together, you could do 2 smaller tables or 2 ottomans that could then be moved out of the way to make more usable walking space in the middle of the room. You can also put in some really good practices to make that room look bigger by hanging your drapery higher than the windows so you get those vertical lines to bring the eye up, doing a light fixture that's hung higher to the ceiling, once again to bring the eye upwards. The placement of your artwork, the scale and proportions of your artwork can also have that effect. Could also be the type of lighting you're using in the space in terms of like lamps, floor lamps, sconces, lighting that projects onto a wall but slightly upward could be a really good way to bring the eye upwards away from the cluttered space that's down below. You could also look for pieces of furniture that have taller legs on them. A sofa with legs where you can see the floor underneath will make that space look bigger. Also, a lot of those pieces that have taller legs tend to be a little bit lighter and easier to move, like chairs, like a coffee table, to get that out of the way so you can actually have some serious convertibility in that space, but you can also have one that looks a little bit larger than it is, more open and airy and brighter and lighter, because sometimes a narrow living room can feel like a long dark hallway, and you don't want that. Now, like I said, no 2 spaces are the same, and yours is going to be different than everyone else's, so some of these things may not work for you, and you may need a expert designer opinion and a well-curated eye to help you figure out what you need in your space and what's going to make it actually functional and livable for you. Be sure you head to the description box down below or go to intro.co/GarrettLeChic to book a one-on-one virtual consultation with me. You can show me around your home, and I can give you some ideas on how to make it not only beautiful and gorgeous and feel sumptuous and luxurious, but actually serve the purposes you need and be fully functional. Another type of difficult living room that people ask me, how do I decorate all of the time, is one with a corner fireplace. Corner fireplaces can be really good, but they're also very difficult to work with depending on the layout of the house. And the reason I say that is because sometimes windows and doors are placed next to it or right by it, and that really limits you in terms of where the furniture can go because you need to have access to those things, and it also limits where you could put something like a television and place a sofa to actually see it. So this does kind of require seeing a space, but some general principles you should keep in mind and some rules you should look into following that may make it easier to decorate with are going to be that the access point to a living room with a fireplace should be against one of the walls that the fireplace touches. Now, when I say walls, I mean the perception of a wall. Sometimes it's not actually a wall there. It might be an opening, it might be open concept, but against one of the sides the fireplace touches. Look at this living room, for example. We have got a corner fireplace here with a set of doors that lead outside. They have left access in front of these doors into the living room, and inadvertently this is the best position for the living room and how to decorate it because it allows access into the space and access to those doors. Now, what limits this living room is the placement of the television. Right now it's hung above the fireplace, which is kind of the natural spot because it's really the only wall they have here that's big enough to put the television on. But if these were my clients, what I would suggest to them is getting a TV on an easel or a television stand of some sort to put in the corner here under this black and white photo. Yes, the television would either be mounted on the wall at an angle or on the floor. It would cover up a little bit of the window, but where the television is now, you really can't see it from the sofa, so there's almost no point in having it in this living room. Instead, if you moved it, you'd actually be able to sit on the sofa and enjoy it, lounge and relax, have the fireplace right in front of you, but be able to see the television. So that is one of the principles to keep in mind. Keeping a clear point of access basically in front of that fireplace into the living room arrangement is a really good way to make sure it doesn't feel closed off, cramped, condensed, but you can also see the fireplace from the sofa. That's perfect. That way we can see the fireplace and the television. Some of the things like, using really beautiful drapery, having a great piece of artwork or a mirror above that corner fireplace will really elevate the space. So if it were me and I have this living room and I'm starting to decorate it, I would say, let me figure out where all of the other things go in here first, and then let's address the furniture situation. Maybe we do a sofa with a curve to the back of it. Maybe we do a sectional directly in front of the fireplace if that area is more open concept. You need to be creative and don't limit yourself in terms of the furniture arrangement in a living room with a corner fireplace, because sometimes the unexpected may be exactly what you need, and sometimes you just might need to draw it out on paper first to really understand the placement of everything and what's going on. That way you get a space that you can truly enjoy and is actually usable, even though you have that corner fireplace. It has been requested that everyone wants to see Cornelius. Cornelius, listen, hey, he's a short, stocky little guy, okay? He doesn't like to get into all of the positions that you can see. Cornelius says, be sure you take this moment and hit the subscribe button. Join us, become a part of our GarrettLeChic family. And pull out your smartphone, scan the QR code right over here to go directly to the channel page where you can hit subscribe. And I'd also greatly appreciate if everyone could give this video a like. Look at what I'm doing for you. Okay, I've got this 55-pound bulldog on top of me. He doesn't want to be here. He's been bribed with treats. He wants to go back to his nap. Be sure you give us a like. One for me, one for Cornelius, and a third one for Arden. Not that you can see him because he's laying here staring at us, being jealous of Cornelius. Okay, Bull, I'm gonna give you your wish and let you go down. Let me get Cornelius' fur off my little tie here and off my sweater. Okay, love that for me, love that for him. Hi, Arden, yes, I know. The next type of difficult living room we have to talk about how to decorate is a living room with a door in it. Basically, when you have to walk through a living room to get to a door, this is something that is becoming more and more and more common with new home builders because it's like, they want to make a smaller home and, oh, there's going to be backyard access through the living room, blah, blah, blah. Where are we putting the door? Just put it in the middle of that wall. It can be beautiful, but it also very much limits you in terms of the layouts you can use in that space. What I would say for this type of living room, when you're decorating it, focus on the access to that door or to those walkways first. Like, let's take out a piece of paper, draw out the layout, like a basic little thing, and then start putting some lines. Like, where am I gonna walk through to get to these doors? And this is also another one where having like a round coffee table, that's a great tip for a living room with a flow pattern through the middle of it. Having a round coffee table so you don't have corners on it really does allow you to have additional access into that room, or through it anyway. Here's an example living room. Okay, tall ceilings, we've got some built-ins, the decor and decoration beside the point. The whole issue here is that the furniture is too big and there's too much of it. That is something you have to remember with a living room with access through it. You cannot have oversized, bulky furniture, and you cannot have too much furniture in a living room like this, because it will completely destroy the flow patterns through it. If this living room, the sectional in it, was one seat less in front of the door, right? If we just had one seat less and we did one chair, a round coffee table in here, it wouldn't be an example photo in this video, because right now it has too much furniture. That would increase the flow and allow more movement through it. Yes, we would lose 2 seats in this living room, but we may be able to add additional chairs into another space that we could then bring into this living room that would create more convertibility and more usability. You need to be careful about how much furniture you bring into living rooms like this, and the style of furniture also. A sectional in a living room that needs a flow pattern to go through it may not be your #1 choice. It may not be the best answer for you, especially if you have a centralized feature or focal moment like a fireplace. You know, we have that centralized moment. The sofa is going to want to be directly across or off of that. So now we're limiting ourselves on where that flow pattern can be, and that's okay, but adding more limitations like, hey, it's a sectional and we need 2 chairs and a square coffee table, now you're just going to ruin the flow. We need to keep it moving and open in those areas. So using furniture that has a slightly smaller scale to it could be really good for you. This living room could also be really great if, instead of having a sectional and 2 chairs, if we did a standard sofa and then 4 chairs. If we did that, we could then create a lot more usability, and we can move the chairs. We could have 2 of them directly in front of the fireplace and then 2 off to the side. Like, there is more versatility in that than there is in having a big sectional sometimes. So if you have a living room where you have to walk through it to get to a door or a pathway, an access point into another room or outside, you need to be having a flow chart. You need to know exactly where that path is. Use smaller scale furniture and a potentially round or oval shaped coffee table, because since they don't have corners, they're actually smaller, like the surface area is smaller. As humans, and what people see is very square, very blocky, and has boundaries to it, okay? And so when we see something, even though it is a square table, we're now enhancing the size of it because we don't want to go anywhere near that and hit ourselves on it, right? Like, visually, mentally, it's a subconscious thing that happens. When you have a round table and you have curves, your eye doesn't see and process it in that same way. So it feels like there is more space there even if there isn't, and it feels like you can move throughout that space more naturally and with more ease than you can in a space that has a lot of squares and corners in it. So those rounded shapes, like even here, a chair with a rounded back on it or a rounded front edge on it would make this space feel so much more open and lively and airy and have better flow in it. Now, these are some difficult living rooms to decorate, but when you have the right layout, anything is possible. Be sure you check out this video right here all about the best living room layouts you could use in your home, the most popular, the most common, and how to use them in your space. And I will see you over there.